2023 will go down as one of the best years for video game releases in history. I personally think this is one of the only years to rival the likes of our holy year of video games, 2007. Games like Baldur's Gate 3, Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Jedi Survivor, Final Fantasy XVI, RE4 Remake, Dead Space Remake, Spider-Man 2, Hogwarts Legacy, Phantom Liberty, and the list goes on and on and on. But with such an amazing year, you can't ignore the stinkers. Not the bad stinkers, but the disappointing ones. With that in mind, here's my biggest disappointments in gaming of 2023.
This is Aveum.
Starting off at the bottom, we have Immortals of Aveum. Now, this hits at just the bottom of my list because I still really like the game. It's just missing something. It's hard to explain. It's always great when first-person shooters try to do something different with the core formula, which is why Immortals of Aveum seems so interesting from the outset. Instead of guns, you have magic. Its fast-paced, spellcasting combat is both satisfyingly spectacular to look at, and it features a lengthy single-player campaign, with a bunch of secrets that, even when the story's over, you can still do more. This game's biggest problem, unfortunately, was marketing and its release window. I barely even remembered this game existed when it came out, and it came out at such a bad time, only a few weeks after one of the greatest games of all time, Baldur's Gate 3, and just a week before the anticipated Starfield. This game was sandwiched in between two titans, just like EA did with Titanfall 2 when it released it between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. It's sad that a company releasing its first game, and a new IP, mind you, performed so poorly that almost half the staff had to be let go. I hope the former employees and the company can bounce back after this.
Back up. Option A was to kill me?
Here's your vehicle activation code, Comrade Major.
Atomic Heart. Now, just because I like this game doesn't mean I still can't be disappointed with it. In comes, what looked like a Soviet Bioshock set in the 1950s turned out to be not exactly that. Its biggest problem was its developer, Mundfish, who tried to do too much, especially with their first game. It felt like every idea that they wanted to implement, they implemented it, they tried to, and the game became a sort of disjointed mess. Add on the cringy dialogue and the American-sounding Russian protagonist spitting out bad lines every chance he gets, and it's easy to see why the game put off a few people. There's also the bugs, there's some tedious looting, and a very linear open world, and some annoying first-person platforming. I still really enjoy the game, and with a sequel already in development, I hope they stick the landing better this time.
Shiny, yes, so beautiful.
The Lord of the Rings Gollum. While this game will end up on a lot of people's worst games of 2023, and rightfully so, the reason it's on my disappointed list as well is because I love Lord of the Rings. Unapologetically so. So whenever a new Lord of the Rings game is announced, I look forward to it, no matter how lackluster it looked. Gollum was doomed from the start, however, with a fully priced $60 tag. Abysmal technical problems, game-breaking bugs, a boring plot, and bad controls. The game's poor reception and the obvious fan backlash likely contributed to the studio's closure. Sadly, this is hands down, without a doubt, the worst Lord of the Rings game I have ever played.
What did you tell him?
Nothing.
My comrades, we stand reunited!
Modern Warfare 3. Now, I don't really play Call of Duty for multiplayer or Warzone anymore. I stopped after Cold War, which I really enjoyed. The main reason I still play Call of Duty games is for the campaigns. I love Call of Duty campaigns. They are unapologetically over the top and campy and ridiculous. I love them. Which leads me to Modern Warfare 3. Holy crap, what the hell happened? Well, I'll tell you, this isn't a Modern Warfare 3 campaign. It's DLC for Modern Warfare 2, with a good chunk of the missions being in Warzone maps and finding loadout boxes. Nobody wants Warzone shit in Call of Duty campaigns. And it's only around 4 hours long. I mean, at least Previous Call of Duties pushed the 7-hour mark, maybe a bit more on veteran or realistic, but this is just sad. I'm not even going to go into the story, where essentially nothing happens. The whole game is a boring slog, with nothing interesting happening until the very, very end. This was a big disappointment for me, as someone who plays these games almost exclusively for the campaigns, and with a campaign even worse than Call of Duty Ghost and Vanguard. I'm going to think more than twice next time before I'm even giving the next game or the next game after that a chance.
Hurry! Give it to me! Give me the phone!
Vampires, cultists, psychic phenomena. Never seen anything like it.
Redfall. The writing was on the wall for this game as soon as it was announced for me. Arcane is known for some amazing first-person simulation games, like Dishonored. So delving into a co-op shooter designed as a live service game, a genre that developer Arcane Studios didn't have any experience with, was a bad idea. Instead, what we received was a half-baked looter shooter plagued with technical problems, repetitive missions, subpar visuals, an incredibly boring plot with some of the worst cutscenes you can integrate into a game, and a lifeless world. I guess the vampires sucked the life right out of this game because there's just no saving it at this point, despite what Arcane and Microsoft tell you.
You are in the presence of a god.
Well, looks like this is the place. Seems like it's seen better days.
Well, you're not going to find what you're looking for out here.
I know. Great start.
Forspoken. While I quite enjoy the fast-paced combat and mobility of Forspoken and its isekai setting, it's the main character and writing as a whole that just drag this game down into the mud. Cringy dialogue, an empty open world, and an excruciatingly slow exposition-heavy story. The brand new IP was the final game from Japanese studio Luminous Productions, which was shuttered and merged under a different division at Square Enix a month following its disastrous launch.
Destruction and corruption are forms of creation in themselves.
Wow, you sound like a serial killer.
Welcome to Constellation. We have a lot to talk about.
Starfield. Oh boy, Starfield. My most boring and disappointed game of 2023, bar none. I've already made a few videos describing my problems with this game, so if you want a more in-depth explanation on why this game is number one on this list, check those out. But I'll summarize. This game is the textbook definition of wide as an ocean, but it's deep as a puddle. This is a game about exploration, but in reality, it's a 1,000 empty planet slogfest riddled with loading screens at every turn, a lack of a detailed in-game map, boring and lifeless quest with very few exceptions. When the game's core mechanic is its least engaging feature, you know you're in trouble. And after this, it's going to be hard for Bethesda to win back fans for Elder Scrolls 6 or even the next Fallout.
How can I help you? And how can I not help you? Because I want to make sure I never do those things.
I don't want to end this video on a negative note, so let's end it a little bit more positive. While this year did have a bunch of really big disappointments, the good games released this year far outweigh them. Even with this list, and even a worst games of 2023 list, the amount of fantastic games released this year cannot be denied or understated, and will without a doubt go down as one of the best years for releases in video game history.